Hey, what's ready? Welcome back to News Dose, and whether we like it or not, AI has kind of found its way into pretty much everything by this point. There is a reason that all of these companies are investing a boatload of resources into AI, and if you talk to gamers, most of the time, they don't like it. Now, I'm kind of in a position where I think it can be good for some things, like, AI upscaling as one such example. And then there's other times where I really don't like it. Generative AI is obviously a major concern. So there is some nuance to this situation, but now it sounds like Sony is thinking about using AI in a way that has gamers almost scratching their heads. Yeah, so we're going to get into all of that today, as well as the next Game Pass lineup, which looks fairly good to start off 2026. First, though, I do want to thank my supporters on Patreon and on YouTube memberships. Thank you just so much for what you do, and you will receive this video through early access. Let's go and get right into things, though, starting off with the 40th anniversary for Dragon Quest. Of course, they have Dragon Quest VII Reimagined on the way sometime here soon, and you can actually play its demo as we speak. It actually sounds like it's a really good time, but they seemingly are teasing more news for 2026. In a recent tweet, they said, "Happy New Year, Dragon Questers. This year marks the 40th anniversary of Dragon Quest. Please look forward to various announcements in celebration of the anniversary. Thank you for your continued support." So they seemingly have something in store for fans beyond just Dragon Quest VII Reimagined. And while technically this tease could be related to merchandise or even some kind of concert, I think the hope that fans have is that we'll finally get an update for Dragon Quest XII. I know there's been discussion about its development and how smooth it's actually going, but it's been a very long time since the last mainline Dragon Quest game. As hard as it is to believe, Dragon Quest XI launched nearly 10 years ago. So it kind of feels like it's, maybe time to give fans an update for Dragon Quest XII, even if it's just something relatively small. Now, with that said, they could also announce another remake. Square Enix has kind of suggested that more could come later down the road, but the question to that is, how long? Either which way, though, it sounds like it could be a fun year for Dragon Quest fans. Now, speaking of Japanese studios, though, the Metaphor Fantasio director made a statement that seems to be catching a lot of attention online. In an interview with Game Informer, he said that with these changing times, we do feel the need to update our format and create games that would be more widely playable, not just within the JRPG realm, but something that would be easier, more accessible for a wider audience. We're hoping to update our format with that in mind. And a lot of people are taking this as a bad sign, which I can easily see why, but I don't think that they should necessarily be, just because you can already see that vision ingrained into something like Metaphor Fantasio, which a lot of people consider an all-time great for the genre. And what I mean by that is that while yes, it has your typical turn-based combat that you're used to in an Atlus game, but they also intertwine some action-based elements in as well. And I think that was their attempt to make it more, quote-unquote, accessible to more people. So I think a lot of people are maybe taking this remark as if Atlus is going to completely change and make their games easier and, modernize them. But I don't think that's how they necessarily meant this statement to be viewed. It's kind of like Expedition 33 as an example. It's an amazing turn-based game that immediately is going to grab longtime fans of the genre, but they found a way to reach more people by completely innovating it and to make it feel more action-oriented with its parry and dodge system. So all I'm trying to say is that I think for Atlus, they're going to continue to make the games that their fans already know and love, but they want to find new ways to innovate the genre at the same time. I think that's what they meant by this statement, but maybe I'm also just reading too much into it, so let me know what you think. Do you view his statement as a good or a bad thing? Oh, and Arc Raiders continues to have a ton of success. Last year it really popped off and surprised a lot of people, and that's kind of the thing, because it's a brand new IP. It feels like every single year we get a few surprise games that just takes off, but check this out. Arc Raiders is now estimated to have reached 12 million players, 53% of which are allegedly on Steam, which kind of piggybacks off of my topic from yesterday. We talked about the rise of PC gaming in yesterday's video, and if you haven't noticed already, a lot of these games that ends up being big surprise hits are majorly propped up by the PC community and Steam. I mean, that's been the trend here in the last 4 or 5 years, whether it be with Palworld, Valhalla, Helldivers 2, or even here with Arc Raiders. The PC community has risen to new heights, and I think we're seeing that once again with Arc Raiders. All right, now let's go talk about PlayStation, because apparently they recently updated a patent that would see PlayStation games play themselves through the use of an AI-generated ghost if players want assistance for a game. So hypothetically, let's say that you're playing something like Wolverine, and you get stuck on a boss or something like that. Well, if you wanted to, you could use this AI-generated ghost to complete the boss for you. Now, to be clear, this is only a patent for the time being, so there's no guarantee that they'll actually utilize it in a game down the line. But at the same time, there has been some movement for this patent within just the last week, and that's noteworthy because it was first filed back in 2024. So it's almost like they're still considering this as an option for the future, which, I mean, a lot of gamers are viewing this as crazy for all of the wrong reasons. I mean, okay, I understand that people watch walkthroughs online to help them, and you know, a lot of people do like it when their games are a little bit on the easier side of things, but they still have that player agency. So it kind of feels like this almost crosses a line to some extent. I mean, now we're kind of getting to a point that you might as well just go watch a movie instead of playing a game. You know, one of the big benefits of gaming is not only the player agency, but the problem solving, and this kind of takes that element away. It almost reminds me of something like Mario. And let me just explain. So in one of the new Mario Brothers games, there is an invincible mode for players who are struggling with a specific level. So the invincibility will help that player breeze through that level that they're struggling in. And okay, that's perfectly fine. At least you still have player agency. But even still, I still think that it strips those players away from the joy of actually completing a challenge. You know, not everything is necessarily meant to be easy in life, and sometimes it's rewarding to work for something. And I think games have always been able to teach people that, and even at an early age. You know, I think gaming is a great way to teach kids problem-solving skills. But when you implement these type of things, it almost takes away from one of gaming's strongest benefits, or at least in my opinion. And plus, in the case of this Sony patent, it goes a step beyond that because, again, it also quite literally takes away from player agency. And that's what separates a game from, let's say, a movie or a show. It's all about you controlling a character, and if you take that away, then why are you playing a game in the first place? Now, maybe I'm being obtuse or a little bit too harsh, and maybe some people view this as a good thing, but I'm not so sure about that because when you implement something like this, I feel like you're almost going down a slippery slope. Let me know what you think about this, though. Do you like this idea by Sony, or are you like me and just think it's complete nonsense? All right, now one more thing before we go, though, because we just got our first wave of Game Pass games for 2026, and you can see it here. It includes Bruised and Bastards, Little Nightmares, Adam Fall, Lost in Random, The Eternal Die, Rematch, Space Marine, Final Fantasy, Star Wars Outlaws, My Little Pony, Resident Evil Village, and Mio Memories in Orbit. Now, I'm not going to say that this is the hottest month that Game Pass has ever produced, but I still think that this is a fairly strong way to start the year because there are some very good games in this lineup. I mean, right away, Adamfall was a standout survival RPG from last year. In fact, it shares a lot in common with the Fallout series, a fan favorite for Xbox fans, and that's what it's usually compared to. So I'd say, if anything, if you like Fallout, then you probably need to try Adamfall. I mean, you might be surprised. Now, another standout here immediately, I'm going to have to say Resident Evil Village. I mean, yes, it's been out for a while, but with Resident Evil Requiem right around the corner, it really is the perfect time to go back and play Village. I mean, if you haven't played it already for whatever reason, honestly, it's not only one of the best horror games that you can play, but it's also just one of the best games from this generation. And there will be some connections between it and Resident Evil 9. So again, whether it's your first time or if you just want to go back and refresh your memory a bit, go check it out through Game Pass before Resident Evil 9 launches. Then the other big game is probably Star Wars Outlaws. I mean, I know a lot of people did not like this game when it first released, and I get that, but it's still a massive franchise that a lot of people were very curious about for a long time. And if you were a part of that group, if you were curious about it and just didn't buy it when it launched, then now is kind of the perfect time to try it out at no extra cost to you. Beyond that, though, I mean, I can also recommend Little Nightmares. That's a great game. Space Marine, Final Fantasy, and even Lost in Random. I mean, all of these are good games in their own right. So there's just a lot of quality in this lineup, and who knows? They still might have a surprise later this month with their upcoming Xbox Direct. So stay tuned for possibly more. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode. But until next time, make sure to subscribe, ring that bell, and peace out.